Welcome to the first episode of the Missouri Valley Voices podcast. I was fortunate enough to sit with sisters Lexi and Ambrosia in October of 2025, and they shared their story with me. They were born and raised here in Missouri Valley, and this episode is dedicated to their dad, Spencer Smith, who loved Missouri Valley, who dedicated his life to the community and to his family. This story is about what life was like growing up as a child and now what it's like for them as an adult, raising and having raised their own children here over the decades. They had really honest conversations with me about those experiences and how it shaped their childhood and the community that we all live in, and shows room for us all to do better as a community. There are a few minutes of audio imperfection, which I apologize for that. I was still getting accustomed with the audio equipment, but this story was so important, and I appreciate that the ladies were willing to sit down and share with me that I felt like it really needed to get out there despite those audio imperfections. So I thank you guys for joining and for listening or watching, and let's get into it. Welcome to Missouri Valley Voices. We have with us Smith and Amber Johnson. Okay. And you two, what are you to each other?
My sisters.
Okay. And you guys, what's your relationship to Missouri Valley?
Born and raised here. My whole life, except for I moved to Omaha for like a year and a half, and then I got pregnant with my husband. It's too expensive, so we moved back home. Been here ever since.
And what about you?
I was born and raised here. I moved away to Harlan for about 6 years, maybe.
So, what's something that you both love? Having been born and raised here, what's something you can say that you love about
It's my home.
Yeah.
I mean, several things I love. I love our school. I think we've done a lot of work in the community to make our school fantastic. I love the community. Even though I'm kind of a stay in my own cave kind of person, I still love to go out into my community and do things like the Mobile Valley, rain, all of that stuff. You know, I love the community feel for that. I also love the community support for the students. I feel like, because my daughter did a lot of theater when she was in high school, and show choir and all of it. The community was always very supportive of those things. James plays basketball. You always have decent turnouts at their games. I mean, I just love that whole community feel. Basically, you get that more in a smaller town than you do with a place like Omaha.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that kind of your vibe too.
Yeah. I love it because it's home. I love the library, by the way. The library is superb. And then also the community. You know, going to events, you see the people you know, you see the people you grew up with, you see the people your parents knew.
You see the people you grew up with, children. I mean,
it's a nice thing. And myself, I'm not a huge go out and do things kind of person either. But when I do, it's always that together vibe, you know, we're Missouri Valley people.
Yeah. Speaking of home, this is your childhood home, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's home.
Yeah. So this is right up the street from us. What, a block?
Yeah, that's up the street. But we tore that out.
Yeah, I tore out the carpet.
I love the wallpaper. I imagine that was your mom.
That was there. Pretty much almost everything is how it was when mom and dad moved in, except for the flooring.
I love it.
I got to say, one of the things I miss the most, the cabinet back there on the back wall next to the dishwasher,
rolls out.
It's a pan drawer. It has drawers, 2 tiers of drawers that pull out. Oh my God! I thought all houses moved that, and when I heard that out, I was so disappointed that was a luxury thing.
Yeah, we spent many a
family function, many Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah. Yeah,
but yes, that's it's so bizarre now to drive past it and not be able to go inside. You know what I mean?
To not pull up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and go in and just walk right in the door.
Yeah.
You know, it's been
So you guys this was your childhood home. You were born in this house?
well, she was. I'm 10 years older than her.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and our parents we originally lived out in the dips area.
Oh, yeah.
If you're familiar with that. There's an apartment complex almost nearly in the center of the dips.
Yeah.
And we used to live out there we purchased this house when I was 6 years old.
Oh,
So the vast majority of my life.
you got to pull up to that house and be like, oh my gosh, this is so
Oh,
cool.
I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. Yes.
And the
pool, because there used to be a pool in the backyard. So of course, any 6-year-old, when they're like, what house do you want, sweetheart? And I'm like, the one with the pool.
You got it.
I did get it. The pool's no longer there, but no, it was because we looked at several houses. I only remember 2.
And a lot of kids. Mom daycare.
Yeah, mom did daycare. Mom was also good at adopting local children.
So, how were your parents? How was it growing up in that house? Like, what kind of childhood did you guys have?
Oh, it was
I would say
good.
I mean especially that house, because there were so many different rooms
I know.
that you could play in.
Oh, God.
Dad cared a lot about his community. Dad, for 19 years. I think it's okay. I know. It's okay. They did a really beautiful. And then
I learned a lot about your dad.
he worked at the school.
Dad was a rock and roll guy.
Yeah.
Through and through.
Drag racing?
My first concert at 10 years old was Kiss, and Dad's
10.
Yeah, 10.
I'm reading about it first. You know, you see the picture, you get an idea, and then I'm reading that. I'm like, I've got to ask the ladies about this.
He was really.
I'm going to get the opportunity to play Gene Simmons. And tell me about this car.
Oh God, well,
That's Dad's joy.
that's Dad's pride and joy. That was his
1970s
70 Chevelle Malibu with SS.
Tell me he drag raced with that.
Back in the old days, yeah,
And they
absolutely did.
him and his friends actually built their own dragster from nothing. It was a different car, but they frequently drag race, whether legally or not.
Back in the old days, yes.
And Dad was a very talented mechanic. Kind of was in his blood. His dad was a mechanic in the blood. And that was his joy, that car. And I remember one year for Christmas, she asked Dad what he wanted for Christmas, and he said a 1970 Chevelle. Yeah. So she bought him almost that same car. And of course, Dad had a really good sense of humor, so he thought it was great.
Well, I'm sorry that, he passed. That's a huge loss. And he's so young. So young. But, just reading about him and his contribution to the community. You said he worked at the school?
Yeah, from the time he graduated for 19 years. He worked for school. He was the.
Oh, okay. So everyone knew him.
Oh, everybody knew that. You can still, if there's people up at the school to this day that worked with Dad. If you mention Spencer Smith, they'll go on forever.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
And it was cool going through school and getting those people as teachers that I admired. And they would tell you that it still wasn't the same without him.
Even 15 years
And
later.
I still very much was passionate about the school. And
he was so excited when the football field got approved because they've been whole way that he said that was been a goal of the school system since clear back when he had been working there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so proud that they had finally got that accomplished with that campus over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went to Missouri Valley.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He graduated
here. Yeah.
Grew up here, and then started working for the school system. Like, this is his life. Missouri Valley was really his life.
Oh, yeah, because then after that, Dad, he had a brief job in between. But then Dad started to work at in the and his best friend from high school, Dwight DePaul, was I think he was one of the owners at the time, but he did work there. And so Dad started. Well, within a very short amount of time, they realized how smart Dad was. And he essentially went from being just building to engineering.
Oh, wow.
Self-taught engineering.
Electrical engineering. And then eventually he became the head of work. He was very good at it.
I don't imagine, though, that he was a very prideful man. He seems very humble and very down to earth.
Well, he's not meaning, she means that he's not stuck up.
Oh, no.
Right. Now, like, of course, he takes pride.
Yeah, because he's always very proud of
I
his.
attended an event last night for Vulcan for their 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of the said, you know, your dad was so good, and we didn't realize he didn't realize how irreplaceable he was. And
Yeah.
he just totally didn't. Dad was so humble with everything. When we would tell him all the time, you know, we would encourage him that he was way more than he was.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
you're right, very humble.
Himself, right?
Yeah. He was totally, he was wanting to go back to work on his deathbed, was he not? He'd talk about, well, when I get back to work, you know, I might have to retire, but I'll just work part-time and I can help him. When he couldn't walk, he would go down there to pick up his check because he still insisted on getting a paper check after all these years because he wanted to go to the bank, putting it in there.
He's a creature of habit.
Yeah. And so he would have Mom or Lex take him down on paydays, which was Wednesdays, wasn't it? And so he could hobble around in agony and see all, and check in on how everything was going, where his projects were at. Like, his job meant everything to him. He was very, very proud to work for that company.
So you and your mom were married for 38 years? Is that right?
Yes. Got married when I was 2.
3 kids, 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had back here too.
Did she?
Yeah. Yep.
So they was that their first home that they owned together? So they got to buy their first house, raise a family there. It's really beautiful. And you guys have they have 3 kids. So you have,
we have another.
Yeah, we're all 10 years apart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not on purpose.
So I just have the year that you guys moved into that house, or your parents moved into the house, as 1989.
Yes, ma'am.
So 1989, and then we have your neighbors. 500 East Superior Street, right next door. You guys are kids, obviously, thinking the perspective our children have versus the perspective adults have. And so when you were living in your house next to this, tell me, now that you're adults, what is your perspective of what your dad's issues were?
Totally correct.
Did he take it to the city? What were the...
Yes, he had. He had Now, I do want to say, when we first moved in, because you weren't born yet, when we first moved in, and the first maybe 10 or so years that we lived there, it wasn't stellar,
Right.
but it wasn't terrible. Were there issues? Yeah. Did I see the owner at that time take carpet out of the house, hose it off, and put it back in the house for his next winter? Yeah, I did. Okay, but that's slumlord activity.
Right.
It's not necessarily. It is. It is. I remember coming inside telling Mom, like, what is he doing? She goes, I guarantee he's putting it back in the house after he hoses it off. And he absolutely did. Which is crazy because the lady that had been living there at that time was an animal hoarder inside. And I knew this because she had me watch her animals for her once when she went out of town. And like, an iguana lived in their bathtub.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that's it. So to see take that outside after knowing what I was like, wow. And that was maybe 11 or 12. But then once I was an older teenager, it really started to go downhill. I don't know if it was because who was living there at the time, because that was, I graduated in 2001. So that was still before Diana took control, or Diana took control of it. Then we went back in during the non-flood in 2011. It did flood, but it didn't flood our area.
You two moved back into the house?
No, she was still there.
Oh, you were okay.
And me and my husband and my daughter moved back into the house because we lived south of the railroad tracks. And
it was gonna flood.
Yeah. Yes, and it didn't that year. It did not in that area. It was flooded up there, but yeah, it was the non-flood for my neighborhood that year. And we lived there for 4 or 5 months, almost a whole summer, because we were worried.
Yeah, because I had graduated high school that year.
Yes.
But I will tell you, now, as a child, I was allowed to play out front. I could ride my bike up and down the sidewalk. The neighbors on the other side had girls my age, so we always played.
Yeah, because that's how I met Ryan.
But I remember being someone had come out of that house one day, walked by me, started talking to me. I'm a kid. I didn't understand then why my dad got so upset with me for talking to someone that
was coming out of that.
Have you ever communicated? Because that's a tough thing for a parent to communicate what we think is going on.
Well, so, for example, I could ride my bike from our garage down towards 6th Street. I could not come stop.
Yes.
And did they tell you do not talk to anyone that comes out of that house?
Yes. Yeah, and to stay off the property. Yeah, especially when she was little. Not as much when I was little, because like I said, it hadn't got quite as. But particularly because I would get after her too if she was over there messing around. I'm like, you don't want.
Yeah.
Stay away from those.
Now, fast forward in time to our little sister and Tyler, because then they were not allowed to play out front, period.
Because things had just declined at that point so bad.
Yep.
I mean, they would come up and like, I remember one day Dad got home from work and he always parked his truck in the street. And he got out of the truck and someone from that house just came up and started yelling at him. Yep. I think it was Will.
Yep.
Will
with me. Yeah. Yes.
Very familiar with the fellow.
And I don't know what was said or what was done, but he got in a verbal altercation with Dad out in the street, and all Dad did was pull his pickup up and park. Has lived in that house for decades. Dad's truck also got vandalized several times.
Yes, it did. Mom's car got vandalized.
Mom's car. And then my first car that Dad bought me, thing about my dad is on a weekend he would take the car to the car wash and fill it up with gas. We have high standards here. Right. So he had done that, and then the next day I went out to get my car to leave and my gas tank was empty.
Oh.
And so I went in and I told Dad, and I thought you said you put gas in it, which wasn't a big deal. Like, I'll put gas in it.
Yeah.
But so he went out, he was like, no, I filled it. I know I did. Dad was very much never a below a half.
Guaranteed he had a receipt for it.
He got under the car, checked for leaks, checked for anything. Well, then we found there was a pry mark on my gas door. So then after that, I had to have a locking gas cap. And it only kept getting worse. I mean, my driveway was when you were talking about in 2011. Yeah, there were people living in the back shed.
That was when
They would throw things over the fence.
Yes.
One day, Dad was out there fixing something or whatever, but there was a knife coming through the gaps in the fence.
Oh yeah, it was
so dangerous. And what if that was one of his kids or grandkids?
right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Dad did call the police that.
How did he? Good.
Nothing happened. Right?
And potentially mentally ill.
Yeah.
Like, some people
Well,
take
they
drugs
get
because
back
of
there
mental
talking
illness.
to themselves.
I know they would. They'd be out there doing. I don't know.
Or they yell at you. You're in your yard. They're in theirs. You're separated by a fence.
And they're paranoid, right?
They'd throw stuff over the fence. There was a few times, that the back corner where Dad had that kind of just stood there.
Yeah, for the fence.
They knocked it over and cut through the yard. They tried to break into the garage several times.
Yeah, they did. Dad had a massive amount of tools in there.
Oh yeah, they can sell all that.
Oh, so Dad always made sure that garage was always locked because Dad had antique tools in there from his dad. So he had a huge set of mechanic tools plus all his other tools he'd acquired throughout his life.
And this is about 2011, right? Or I want to.
That we're talking about right now, yes.
Yeah.
So that's when that started.
Yeah.
So when you guys call, or your dad would call the police, or the city, or what was the response?
Nothing that we could tell.
So if he called the police, an officer would typically
an officer would come, yes.
They'd usually talk to Dad or Mom, depending on the call. And then sometimes there would be an attempt to get someone at the neighbors to talk to them.
Well, and a lot of times they might not be there too. Or they wouldn't answer their shed.
Right. Because there were people. I don't think anyone was living in the house. Other they were just in the
So the cops knew, like, if I want to get these guys to go knock.
So Dad submitted complaints to the city, and apparently, he did several because nothing was ever done. Dad cared about his neighborhood and the way he felt it was a reflection of yourself and the town.
It is.
And Dad had tried. He got, from my understanding, Dad was met with, well, you can submit these clients. That doesn't mean we have to handle it. He was so angry that he was like, I'm never stepping foot in that city hall ever again. And then he started, creature of habit our dad was.
Yeah.
He did not like to do things differently. Now it was paid by check in the drop box.
No, he really stopped going in?
Yeah, he stopped going in. He stopped going down there to talk to the lady. I'm not exactly sure who all works there at the time.
I don't know either.
I mean, that's huge. That is huge for a man while sick, still goes into collective paycheck, says, I'm not going to go in here anymore.
Yeah.
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 So I feel like the wrong people get the wrong attention. Because if I have somebody who is taking care of their home, who's a tax-paying citizen.
And who is somebody that, not that this should matter, but they know him.
Yeah. And he's a good guy.
Yes.
And he cares about the community.
He's
Those
not
are people
complaining.
Yes, those are people we should invest in. Those are the people who should get our time and attention.
Absolutely.
So let me give you a little history on he goes by David.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, we know Dave Roberts.
First name, William Dave Roberts.
I mean, Mom used to say don't ever rent from Dave Roberts.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dave had two kids from a previous marriage. He's been married twice. Dave has passed as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
His first marriage, he had two kids, Diana Roberts and Roberts. So he purchased this house in 1993. I don't believe he ever lived in it. I
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm pretty sure it was a rental.
So in 1993, he also married his second wife, Elizabeth. So they were both in their 50s when they got married. They both had kids from previous marriages. He was well known as well. I mean, he made a really good career for himself. He was born in Loveland. He went to the Missouri Valley High School. So it's like, I see a lot of parallels between him and your dad. And I feel like there should have been, it should have been a great relationship, but they took two different paths. Mm-hmm. Where Dave became the landlord, right? And because he wasn't there, he lived in a nice house in Harlan with his wife and had money. And so they bought the house in 93. He then transferred that property, 500 East, to Diana. So it became hers in 2008. So this is
that kind of really seems about the time when it really
started to go down.
Yeah.
This is 2 years later. She took out $33,600.
Wow.
Now, this wasn't a mortgage. This mortgage secures credit.
Right.
In the amount of $33,000.
Well, I can tell you they did not use any
To improve the house. No.
I would imagine that not the case. I can see that. Look at this house. Isn't that beautiful? So this is Eric's home. Eric is the son of...
Oh, no, I forgot about Eric. Yes. Okay.
Eric. $686,000. Now, I have no problem. Eric is not responsible for his dad or his sister or anything like that, right? He's in Ohio. Look at that beautiful house. That's fantastic. This is now where he lives. This is Colorado. $880,000 home. Again, no issue with that. But what I want to tie in here is
he can't relate to people living next door.
No.
Yeah.
You have a family. Do you know how much Dave was worth when he passed?
No. Why
$50 million. $15 million. $15 million. Now, I'm going to tell you this, too. He has a trust where Eric is the sole beneficiary and trustee, meaning Diana was essentially cut out of the will.
Yes.
And so was his wife. Now, they had a prenup, and they had it all agreed on. His second wife, Elizabeth. Okay. And it kind of talks about, like, their education and where they were in the world when they got married. So Dave's already wealthy. He works for Woodman. He sold insurance. He had all these different lines of business, did investment advice, things like that. So he's building this portfolio, right? He has these homes he's renting out. At the time he passes, he's worth $15 million. And this is how his son is living. And then he's living in Harlan with his wife in nice homes, has a $15 million investment. And then you leave, and this is my problem. You leave one of your homes and you don't care what happens to it. You don't care about the people next to you. You don't live here. You don't have to see it every day. You don't care that it's putting a family in despair. A man who takes so much pride in his home, who bought that as a family home, and you don't care. Why would you care?
Who has children? He's trying to...
And grandchildren.
Did your dad have $15 million?
No.
And if he did, I highly doubt he would have left his home. I think
he would not have.
He would have probably purchased every house on the block. And my block.
You don't know how often we were checking the taxes on that house.
Well, they haven't been paid in a bit. Eric, Dave's son, actually sued or got into a lawsuit with his stepmom, Elizabeth, after Dave died because Elizabeth was pursuing some additional monies that he didn't think she was entitled to because they had signed a prenuptial agreement. So from that, you're able to really glean a lot of information about the family dynamics. The fact that Diana was taken out of the will, the fact that, Eric was the sole trustee there, and the fact that, the dynamics between the husband and wife, Dave and Elizabeth, there's a lot of dynamics going on there. Mm-hmm. And the one that I care about is the dynamics of a husband and wife leaving, living somewhere nice, having $15 million, and then leaving a house to a woman, your daughter, who you know that she's not going to take care of that home. And I'm thinking if I'm an investor, that is the house I would leave to my daughter, because you're talking about how he treated that house. That house was trash to him.
And so was she to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there was only maybe a couple times I saw him maybe come around.
And that's early.
It was, and it usually did not end well. Right.
So,
and it's definitely, I mean,
we lived there again. We lost our house in the flood in 2019 because we lived south of the tracks. It was a family property that's been in the family for
generation.
Now the house is gone. It's just a lot. But at the time, we moved in again with my parents while we tried to figure out how to pull things together. That's when the semi-dad was coming.
Yeah. And if we're talking like truck and trailers.
Yeah, completely loaded. So that's not a normal route for a truck to take.
Well, or 3 or 4 people would show up with bags or go in the house maybe for,
and then the bags are busted when they leave.
Yeah.
What?
And they all go different ways when they leave. There was also times when there would be really strong chemical smells. So my mom would call, usually non-emergency police, because, and unfortunately, my mother has had experience with other characters who things in her life. So she knew what she was smelling.
Correct.
Yep.
And, an officer would come out and he would say, I didn't smell anything.
Why do you think it's because they don't want to do anything, or because they can't, or what do you think?
I think it might be a bit of both.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because I do know that the courts are really good at just letting them go
back.
Yeah, they are, and I'm going to show you something.
And also, I mean, I think it's a bit of both, like you said.
I agree.
Maybe there's agreements, or maybe there's informants and they want to try to
question that as
well. I wondered that too.
I mean, because there would be times that I saw cruisers pull up and someone would come out of the house, and typically when you're speaking to an officer of the law, you don't lean in on their vehicle, on their window to talk to them.
Yeah.
And nor would they allow you.
A little too much comfort there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, and my dad was always very aware of what's going on.
Yes, he was.
Out in his neighborhood. And I feel like maybe even now, us talking about it, people may say we're just nosy neighbors. But when it is affecting your life,
yes,
and it's affecting
your children
can't go play outside because the neighbors might throw something over the fence and hurt them.
Or stab a knife through the backyard.
Yeah. Anything like that.
When was that time? Was it you or was it the little kids? Somebody found paraphernalia over in the yard.
We actually have a ticket here. I'm going to show you a paraphernalia. Here's one from 2015. You can see the adjudication. It's filtered by court. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it is really, really important that people receive validation. Because what happens is you make these complaints over and over and over again. And no one ever says, hey, you're right. Hey, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That's crap. That's garbage. What you hear is like, mind your own business. Why are you being a troublemaker? Why are you this? Why? Because I care. Because
why are you asking questions?
Yeah, just shut up. Just go inside. Well, if they're stabbing a knife through your fence, then just don't go in your backyard. That's not okay. That is not okay.
That's not okay.
So I just want to validate you here that these things. So one of the things that I noticed here, and we had talked a little bit before this about how your dad had gone to the city so much and how he had put these complaints forward. Nothing happened with the city prior to 2019. So I had already asked for the previous 3 years of abatement process. So it's 3 years worth of complaints that the citizens have put in. That address, 500 East Superior, is not in my 3-year basket at all. And I know for a fact that people have complained about it because I told you guys I saw that sign one day when I was driving by. Why is the house still here? There's no way that in the last 3 years people were not complaining about that house.
Yeah.
No way.
Not.
So whether it's because they called it and it was verbal, I don't know the situation there.
Well, Dad was instructed to make written complaints, and that's what his frustration was, because he finally went down there and started doing the written complaints, and still nothing happened.
So in the court systems, Todd Argetsinger is our city attorney. He does our municipal infractions. So you can see the comment under there, municipal infraction is 2019. It was filed in October. And then there's an order for judgment in November. Now, what actually changed? Nothing, right? So I'm like, this is great. There's something in here that the city did. But then again, you guys are going to love this one. 2021, they actually listed this as a house of ill fame. And this to me is the validation that you're looking for. 2021, except for nothing happened. The house is still there. 4 or 5 months later, it was dismissed by the courts. A house of ill fame is a legal term for a nuisance property, typically a building or structure used for prostitution or other illegal activities like lewdness, gambling, or the sale of controlled substances.
Bingo.
Yeah.
The state also includes places where excessive drunkenness, quarreling, or fighting occur, disturbing the peace of others. It can be classified as such by its intent or through mismanagement.
Nice. So all those things, pretty much, on that list.
But it was, and I guarantee you they never even told your dad.
Oh,
Because if you said to you,
yes, we would have known about it.
there would have been a party, and there
He would have been excited about this.
But they, in my opinion, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to be involved in the processes. They don't want to be pushed, and that they need to be pushed.
Yes.
So it's dismissed, right? Here we go again, Todd Argetsinger, February 2022. And the thing, again, municipal infractions cut off. But you've got all these cases. Oh, something's going to happen. Why are you pushing it through to have nothing happen? And so now here we are, 2025. And the city is attempting to take the title of the property, which is fantastic, except for now we have an issue where she has some IRS or Iowa revenue liens, and now they're fighting with that. And that is the thing that I take issue with the city is if you were to take care of things originally and not let them go on,
It wouldn't have gone this far.
Right.
And it wouldn't be this.
It would have been as difficult to get it done.
And what they should have been doing is talking to Dave 15 years ago. Hey, if you're going to rent a property out, we have expectations. We have the family next door telling us this is going on, that's not acceptable. It doesn't always have to involve the cops. It doesn't have to involve legal.
Absolutely not.
Send the cease and desist letter. This is the what we're noticing. This is what we're seeing. We need the city to take that accountability off of the city.
Because that should have been on my dad.
No.
My parents.
No, absolutely not.
I'll do that because really there was no talking to them.
No.
They're
Oh, the neighbor? No.
He would not get.
It wouldn't have been an actual conversation anyway.
What floors me too is they just continually be dismissed too. Like was that House of Ill Fame dismissed?
It was, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because this is not gossip. We lived this and we witnessed it. We're not just picking on people.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that the piece that is hard is, the court's like, well, we want hard proof. Well, I'm a witness. I've lived in this house for how many years? I can tell you this is my experience. Now you're not going to accept that as hard proof. So what happens? They continue doing what they're doing. Your dad should have been raising a family. And this hits so close to home for me because it's painful as a parent. I've turned into a different person than I would have been.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but your dad didn't want that pressure and that stress. He didn't want to have that with his wife, and he didn't want to have it with his kids. He wanted a beautiful home for his kids that he worked hard for, and he wanted you guys to have a good childhood. In no way did he ever dream that his kids were going to grow up to be adults who are sitting here in my living room talking about how ridiculous and horrible that situation was.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop. And now you both have kids, and
my son never played anywhere outside that house except for in the fenced-in backyard. And even in the fenced-in backyard, not unsupervised, because that's how much.
Same with the girls.
You can't.
Our youngest sister and my daughter, because our youngest sister and my daughter are only a year apart.
Yeah.
There was no, I mean, you know, I grew up in the 90s, so I played outside all the time. Look, you know, sitting out there
Get
watching.
back with the sun's down,
Right.
be home for dinner.
But now, when my son came along, and even my younger siblings, okay, you can play outside, but mom or dad or your older siblings need to be with you. Because even in a fenced-in backyard, you are not safe from what those people might do.
Yeah.
And they may leave you alone, but they're unpredictable.
Yeah, they are, especially you don't know when they're using drugs and
Erratic
and
behavior.
that's the scary part.
Exactly.
And then also, I know, you know, I feel for people who are addicts and mental. It's sad. It's horrible. But there comes to a point where I have no sympathy now because you're hurting my family.
Yes.
Correct. Well, and honestly, to be quite frank, your mental and drug issues are not everybody else's problem. No. They are not.
That is something I see a lot in town is people will have security videos there. I tried to get into my house or, you know, someone
We all know who they are.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, well, lock your door. Why is that always the answer? Yes, of course, you know, I should lock my door, but I also shouldn't have to worry about somebody walking into my house or stealing from my shed.
Correct.
And I shouldn't always hear the story about, oh, it's so sad then. Drug abuse is a terrible thing.
And it is sad.
It is sad. But you are accountable for your own actions.
And there's consequences for your actions.
But not here. Not in this town.
Unless you're other people, then there's consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for example, when my dad was ill, I went through. Okay, I got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at the same time, my dad was ill. It was really horrible. It was really horrible, and I did not know how to operate the riding lawnmower. I never had to. My dad always took care of the lawn, and then my husband at the time, he always took care of it. And my dad couldn't help me. And I had talked to my neighbors because I had some good neighbors, and they were going to start helping me because they noticed something was going on, and they knew about that.
Yeah.
But a couple weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks passed. My lawn didn't get taken care of. I was helping my mother take care of my father. I was going through my own hard time. I got a notice. I got a notice on my door
About your lawn.
about my lawn. And that if I didn't take care of it next amount of days, the city would. But it kills me because that's consequence for not taking care of your lawn. But it kills me that was given to me almost immediately. And what happened next door to my parents
For decades.
Was allowed.
So frustrating.
It is frustrating.
And it was like a kick in the stomach because here I am. Nobody asked me if everything was okay or if I needed help or I need resources
or whatever.
Something.
Yes.
It was just, you better take care of your lawn, otherwise the city is, and you're going to pay for it.
And it's a small town, and that's what gets me, is I think that abatement process just needs to be the same all the time for everyone, regardless of who you are.
And I knew that my neighbors, especially my neighbors across the street who were really good people, knew what was happening with me. I knew that they were aware and they were helping me take care of myself. They'd bring me dinners, they'd bring me meals, they'd check on me, they'd help me shovel my walk, you know. But the city, you walk by all these dilapidated properties, and yet mine gets the tag on the door.
Well, too, the city owns how many properties and how many of those are dilapidated and that those lawns are teared.
How long did it take them to tear down the house on Main Street? That was
That's more than years ago. I went outside and filmed it because I couldn't.
Oh, when you were in the fight,
taking it down. Yeah, because that's been there like that.
No, it was real bad. It was on Main Street. It had been falling down for years, and it was excuses after excuses. There was also a sign in front of that one at one point in time. that said, "Why is this house still standing?"
I would just want to shake the hand of whoever does that.
Yeah,
I do too. I hear some kind person who runs out, like just putting signs up.
Yeah.
I just love the idea.
Again, in that same situation, just from overhearing things within the community and people I know, it was mind your own business.
Mm-hmm. It is our business.
And honestly, I'm a mind my own business too. I don't need to get into your stuff, but when there is a clear issue, okay, especially on the main drag of our beautiful little town that we want to attract people to, and to be quite frank, I want the children to stay.
Yes.
Okay, I might have stayed. A lot of people leave, and they don't ever come back. Ever.
Our city's actually declining. The population is declining because they leave and they don't come back.
That's what I'm saying. So, would I love my daughter when she's done at University of Iowa to come live in Missouri Valley and do great? Yeah, I would. But is she going to do that? I don't know. And she's mentioned it several times.
But let's give something good to come back to, right?
Exactly.
Let's all work towards.
Yes.
Hey, here's all these opportunities, and it starts with these types of things, with the properties, and it starts with people like your dad. We need people like your dad here. We need people who are going to take pride in the community, pride in their homes. So I just want to bring it back to your dad, because this really is just the validation for him and the work he's done, and like his house still is the cutest house on that block.
He had mentioned at one point that he attempted to get involved at city council meetings and within city politics even, because he cared, but he didn't feel like there was a place for him there.
And I think that's the problem. I think people, they don't know what to say, they don't know how to say it, they feel like their voices aren't heard. But things have changed. Today is very different than things were 20 years ago. There's social media, there are outlets, and we can do this. This is what it's about for me. I think that as a community, we have these conversations and we say, this is what work. Like, look at my dad. Look at everything that he did for the family. That he didn't deserve that. My family didn't deserve that. What are we going to do in the future? And that's what we need to focus on. Is what does it look like for the future? What does it look like? Want the kids to come back? It means let's follow the abatement processes. Let's take citizen complaints seriously. Let's work on beautifying the town. Let's get Main Street up and running.
That was the thing too. He would always, comment on how, they didn't keep the sidewalk, the town beautification, and
roads.
He referred to the city boys, not doing a very great job.
Yep.
And then he'd be angry because he pays tax.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things is our city employees, they don't have performance reviews. Anyone who works at a company, we know we have to do our performance reviews, right? It's something we drive like this is the worst.
That's me.
I'm surprised that people don't, all the things that people don't know. They get an annual raise. They don't have to prove that they don't have to do anything. And that is something that needs to change, because we need performance-based work. And because we don't have it, it shows. It shows in our town. It does.
And it doesn't mean that those people doing those jobs are bad people.
No.
It just means that they need to be held accountable to make sure they're performing their job.
Guidelines, you don't know what's expected of you either. If you don't have to follow guidelines, you're just kind of,
and you don't know
willy-nilly.
Well,
you know what? So you're just like, I'm doing what I can do.
If you don't know if you're doing good, bad, or indifferent,
how can you make
you're going to keep staying the same?
I think it's going to be very painful. I keep saying to people, in 6 months, things are going to look really different. Right now, all of this is painful. Change is painful. And people they hear, oh, you want me to have a performance review? Of course I do.
Yes.
I have a performance review.
Everyone has one. And it's for you too. It's for your benefit. Guess what? Instead of just a COLA raise, your cost of living adjustment, why don't we say you have met the mark and you've exceeded. So this year you're going to get a 5% or 6% raise, or maybe
instead of your standard 2.5, whatever.
Bonus, because you have rocked it.
Right. Well, and as someone like me who takes after my father, I care about if I do a good job.
Yeah.
So I want to know, even if it's going to be uncomfortable, because criticism is never comfortable.
No,
even if it's constructive.
Yes.
Because we all most people, we want to be good.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have it so I can be good than
Exactly.
be just let go and continue to carry on.
Without those type of performance reviews or certain guidelines, again, how do you know what's expected of you?
Yep.
And how are you supposed to achieve your goals when you don't clearly know what they are? That's defining.
And that it's not the fault of those employees.
No, not at all. No, it's not. Yes.
Now, I do think it becomes their fault when things get, and it hasn't happened yet, but you things are clearly defined. You either get on board, or you don't.
Correct.
And I think there's a huge opportunity here. Everyone.
And you would think that everyone would want it to be better for the community.
But that's something that kind of surprises me, is the amount of people who are like, they're so resistant.
Well, you know, when you work at a place or for a place or live in a place, it's easy to say we've done that way for 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not 50 years ago anymore.
Yeah.
We are in a different time. We need different things. We have
a different group of people. Why keep repeating the same mistakes of the past?
Yeah. I definitely appreciate you guys, talking to me. And this is, to me, I know there's a lot of stuff that's coming out and a lot of things about the city that need to be improved, but I view this as a dedication to your dad and everything he stood for, because it's what I stand for. And I wish I got to meet him,
Oh, he would love what you're doing. He really would have loved it.
I've met some of the most wonderful people who are just like him. I have some neighbors across the street that are just like him, and they've been our saving grace here. When I felt like I was drowning and I was going through some things that I just thought we're never going to make it through here. My neighbors are just like your dad, and he is a representation of what we need in this town, what we had, and what we kind of didn't take care of. And that's the goal, is to take care of it, to foster that, and to help build that.